So hello, my name is Maxime Coquelin. I work at Red Hat, and today we will talk about VDU's performance. So last year in Arcachon, I presented an overview of VDUs. It was still at the stage of POC at that time. So I will start with a quick recap so that people can get up to speed on the topic. Then I will provide a status on the streaming part, both DPDK and kernel, and after that we will talk about benchmarks. So last year I presented this slide, that's the architecture of VDUs. What you can see on the top right is the VDUs device, which is implemented in user space in DPDK VIOS library. It connects to the VDUs driver using an IO control, using IO controls on chardev and mmap for the data path. And this VDUs driver in the kernel connects to the VDPA bus. When we are here, we have two possibilities. The first one is if you want to serve user space application like DPDK CNF, for example, or QEMU, you will use you will connect your device to the VIOS VDPA driver, and you will have a chardev VIOS VDPA that will be exposed to the user space. And this setup is quite similar to VIOS user when you have Unix socket instead of this chardev interface. And the other possibility is to bind this VDUs device to the VirtIO VDPA driver. And in this case, it will attach to the VirtIO bus, and you will get VirtIO NetDev that will be exposed to the user space. So with these two solutions, we can cover both Kubernetes primary and secondary interfaces. So last year it was at POC level. Nothing was upstream for networking. For DPDK in 23.7 release, we managed to get VDUs in. So what we did was to refactor the VIOS library to isolate the VIOS user-specific bits, and we added support for VDUs. This support includes the control queue, meaning that we can do multi-queue with 23.7. And for now, it only supports split rings layout. We needed also to add a new API to VIOS so that the application, like OVS, for example, can define the maximum number of queue pairs that the device we create will support. Otherwise, we will get the maximum created at any time, and that's a lot. On the kernel side, we are a bit less advanced. We have 3 series that are being reviewed. So the VDUs driver itself is already upstream, but only support block devices for now. It does not support networking devices. I have a series under review that adds this support. It's a small series, but it misses one thing, is the capability with the SE Linux to allow or deny some types of devices. And also, for now, the control queue is disabled in the upstream series because Jason Wang from Red Hat also, the maintainer for VirtIOnet, is working on a series to make the control queue more robust. We noticed that with VDPA, with VDUs, the user space could stuck basically the kernel, so we need to make this more robust. And one thing that is missing also today is reconnection support, and that's quite important. And another colleague from Red Hat is working on it. So now, regarding the benchmarks. So first benchmarks will be to compare VDUs with VIOS user. So we don't expect much surprises in this case. because we use exactly the same data path, only the control path is different. What we will do is a kind of PCP benchmark, so RFC 2544. We use T-Rex as a packet generator. We use one instance of TestPMD that do I/O forwarding between a Connectic 6 and the VDU's port. And on the container side, I would say, we also use TestPMD, and we will use I/O forwarding and MAC forwarding. So we use Fedora 38. It's a custom kernel, so the latest kernel plus the series that are being reviewed, I mentioned earlier. For DPDK, we use 23.7 plus a workaround to enable reconnection in user space. So it's a quick hack, but it's enough to do the benchmarks. For the tuning, nothing fancy. So we isolate one CPU thread per VDU's queue, and we use a CPU partitioning profile of TuneD. And for the hardware, so it's not a high-end Xeon, it's a silver version, dual core, but we try to run everything on one NUMA node. So here are the results. So in blue, you have VDUs, and in orange, VHost user. So we can see that it scales quite well in both cases. That's expected because we already knew for VHost user, and since we use the same data path for VDUs, there is not much surprise. But we can see a small degradation compared to VHost user for VDUs, less than 5%. We explain it actually because we use the IOTLB layer in DPDK VHost library, while when we do VHost user for containers, we don't have this layer involved. But as soon as we touch the packet by doing MAC swap forwarding in the CNF, in TestPMD in the CNF, we can see that we have no more difference. Yeah, so that's very light. So yeah, no surprise here. So it's as good, not better, but as good, I would say. Then we have VDUs versus VIF pairs. So the idea is to compare setup with to serve Kubernetes primary interfaces and compare VIF pair with OVS kernel and VDUs with OVS DPDK. So in this case, the VDUs device is attached to VirtIO VDPA. Donc we have a netdev for the VirtIO interface, and this netdev is moved to a dedicated namespace. We do the same with the VIF pair. We create a VIF pair, and one peer is assigned to the namespace. And we do different type of forwarding, so between pod to pod, and pod to another server, and server to the pod. The tuning is almost the same. So in this case, we only isolate two CPU threads, two siblings, for OVS DPDK. And we run everything on NUMA 0. So when we do pod-to-pod testing, it looks like this. So we have Open vSwitch. We have one kernel bridge, one user space bridge, so OVS kernel, OVS DPDK. Two VDUs devices that are named DPDK VHost client in OVS, and the two VIF peer. And we assign one peer to one namespace, the other one to the other one, etc. And we can do a comparison between OVS kernel and OVS DPDK. So for the TCP throughput, we can see that we are better for smaller buffer lengths with VDUs, but we reach a plateau quite quickly. So for now, we don't have the exact reason. What we can see is we don't have the PMD thread in OVS are not overloaded. the MEM copies happening in the kernel for VDUs are not taking much of the cycles. So we have some investigation to do on this front. For the latency, we are slightly better, so I would say it's almost the same for VDUs compared to VPair. This one is a bit surprising to me because between two namespaces, since no hardware is involved, I would have expected that VPair would be better. But for the UDP throughput, we are much better with VDUs. But we have an issue. So as soon as we have some fragmentation, we are into trouble. So we drop a lot of packets, and yeah, we are trying to understand why.
It all ends up in one queue, no matter what you do.
Sorry?
It'll all end up in one queue.
No, I will explain. So what we see is I did a TCP dump for on the TX side and of the first VDU spore, and on the RX side of the second one. What we see is the IP fragments are sent in order: blue, green, red. So we have 3 fragments for each. Whereas when we receive it on the VDU port, the packets are disordered. So we have the beginning of the first fragment and at the beginning of the second packet, whereas it is not chained properly. So with NSTAT, we can see that actually for every packet, we have IP reassembly failures. And we can do a quick test by increasing the threshold, the memory that can be used for IP defragmentation. So it will help, but that's not a fix, of course. Yeah, we can see that it helps because now we can do 4K testing, but yeah, for 8K or 16K, we will fail the same way. So that's not a fix. That's just yeah, analysis. So we need to understand why it happens. So that's one of the open points. Then what we have done are some pod to physical and physical to pod testing. So we use an external server connected back to back. And yeah, we have a VDUs port and a VIF port. And we do iPerf and netperf. So if we do TCP throughput with iPerf, we are generally worse. So we see the same trend, but we are worse than VPair. We also see this fragmentation of packets. And in the other way, from physical to pod, we reach a plateau quite quickly, actually. So for small buffer, we are quite close to VPair, but after 8K, we reach a plateau at 10 gigabits per second, and yeah, we need to understand why, because the CPU copies, the MEM copies, does not take much time. So as I said, for TCP, throughput, VPair performs better than VDUs. We are still looking for the root cause of this performance limitation for TCP throughput. For the latency, as for pod to pod, we are better with VDUs for doing TCP error tests. And for UDP, we are better in the pod to physical than VDUs, than VIF pairs. But in the other way, we have the same bug when we TCP dump on the PMD. We see the same issue as we saw with pod to pod. On the MLX5 PMD, we can see that all the packets are disordered. Whereas if we TCP dump on the MLX5 NetDev, so it's the same NIC but another port, packets are well ordered. So that's something we have to yeah, to understand, to clarify. So overall, as a conclusion, I would say that for Vios VDPA, the performance is as expected. So it's on par with Vios user, so we could use it as a drop-in replacement. We would not see difference in performance. But for Varteo VDPA, we are more nuanced. So we have some good results with UDP. Latency is good also, but yeah, we need to understand why fragmented packets cause troubles and why TCP throughput is also behind. So, so next year, so we will try to, in the coming months, we'll try to get the kernel support accepted, and adding the reconnection support and the control queue robust, to making the control queue more robust. And then, of course, we'll try to investigate and address all the performance issues that I have mentioned. What we need to do also with VirtuoNet is to do some scalability testing, because we have one more mem copy, and we need to understand if it will behave well when you have tons of containers. So to do some more testing on this front. For people willing to play with it or reproduce benchmark, I have set up a Git repository on my GitLab. And yeah, there is all the steps I used for the performance numbers. Yeah, that's it.
I have some good news. We're actually a little ahead of schedule, about 10 minutes. It was actually scheduled as a lightning talk, but since we have the time, does anyone have questions for Maxime at all? Yeah, go ahead.
If nobody is asking a question, I have to. Maxime, what is the goal here? Which performance do you want to achieve for which kind of user?
So, yeah, the idea, as I mentioned, is to try and compare a setup with OVS kernel and VIF pairs. So that will serve the Kubernetes container as primary interface, and to compare it with OVS DPDK plus VDUs. That's what we are doing right now.
I'm not sure how much it is an improvement. Do you see a big step?
Yeah. So the idea also would be, for example, if you want to use RT flow, for example, and you want to have a kernel data path in your bridge, that's something that you could use. So VDUs could be used in this case. So if you would like to use OVS DPDK instead of OVS kernel.
Okay, thank you. Question? Yeah.
So how do you see VDUs compared to the alternatives in the kernel? Do you see VDUs taking over completely and the alternatives fading out? I mean, long term, medium term, long term.
No, so I would say that it will depend on what you want to achieve on your cluster. So if you want to, if you need, for example, RT flow and you want to do to use OVS DPDK, so you need a way to provide connectivity to the containers on the primary interface. And so VDUs is one way. It could be maybe handled with AFXDP, for example. So I have not tested, but yeah, that's the idea.